Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. This is take 2 of talking about AI and Chat GPT. Was rolling along pretty good until it stopped cooperating with me as I was trying to run through an example of something that I was working with. Anyway, let's take it from the top. This has been around for a little bit. It's nothing brand spanking new. But for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, ChatGPT is a free online AI-assisted doodad that will converse with you. You can ask it questions, it will give you answers. The answers it gives you will depend on the detail of the question you give it, the information that you feed. The amount of that will dictate the amount of information you get back. Now, you won't always receive the most detailed account when it comes to the answers. Again, it all kind of varies depending on the amount of information it has to work with. So when I first started filling with this, I think I asked it the boneheaded, no-brainer, thoughtless questions like, is there a God? And I do believe, or it's my understanding rather, that this thing is programmed such that it won't answer certain things if it's based on opinion based or has to do with conjecture or anything subjective. It really prefers objective, empirical, concrete things. It's not to say that it only likes yes and no based binary answers and questions, but it does like to keep things concrete. So when you ask it to predict the stock market, it won't do it. It's not allowed to. If you ask it to recommend a stock that is up and coming to invest in, it won't do it. It's not allowed to do that. When you ask it when the war in Ukraine will end, it doesn't like that either. So you get the point. There's things that you ask and you'll quickly come to learn and realize that you're not going to get anywhere with those types of questions. But there are a number of things it can do, and one of the more interesting things that I tried with it was something I came across regarding a AI-assisted GM or Dungeon Master. Now, I don't play Dungeons and Dragons. I have a healthy respect and kind of protracted, removed fondness for it. It's a little difficult to play on your own, but I thought, I'll give this a shot. Now, the guy that listed this, he put copy and pasted exactly what he told ChatGPT he wanted, and it was the bare minimum of what it would require to run a scenario, if you will. I think he gave it his character's race and class and level and what weapon it was carrying, etc. You give it the fundamentals that it needs, the tools to work with. So I did that, and it crafted an environment through which I could progress. It gave multiple choice options, usually in threes, of what to do. I encounter such and such. Do I want to speak with this and ask it something, learn more about my environment, or do I want to progress towards the end goal, which it had already stated? And that was based on an end goal, which I gave it. I told it I was looking for somebody that was lost, something to that effect. So it was progressing me through this environment towards that ultimate end game. But the things that I noted were, again, it provided a very general framework to move through, and the amount of detail was extremely flimsy. So and this is doable. You can use this by yourself to run through a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, but you would need to use this as a fundamental kind of rudimentary framework or to supplement other things. So for instance, I don't recall ever having to roll dice. It never conducted any dice rolls for me. I don't think I ever had an encounter with a monster that needed to be resolved. So there's things that you would need to adjust and adapt, but again, as a basic framework, you could definitely use this. What else? Trying to remember what I was talking before it messed up and I had to start re-recording. It's fun to mess with, and you kind of learn how to mess with it as you go. The other cool thing about it is you can talk to it. It'll talk back. I demonstrated that a little bit in the last video. I think I can do that again safely here without messing up to the extent that I did the last video. Let's give it a shot. Tell me something good.
Sure. Did you know that acts of kindness, even small ones, can have a positive impact on your well-being? Whether it's helping someone or receiving help, these moments contribute to a sense of happiness and fulfillment.
Okay, that's enough. Thank you. So, just by way of demonstration, that is perfectly audible. It doesn't sound like a robot or fake or like some of these audiobooks that you can listen to for free on YouTube, where you can definitely tell it's a bot. That's pretty good. And I bring that up because that allows for hands-off use, which is what I'm getting at. And what I'm getting at is by no means earth-shattering, ground-moving stuff. There's no great culmination that we're getting to here. We're just chatting away as we go. But what I thought was, and this is probably one of the stupidest things to use this powerful thing for, but I thought, hey, what if I told it that you have two six-sided dice, one red, one white, and when I say roll, you roll the dice and tell me the results, and it did that. So what am I getting at playing ASL? You don't want to roll the dice, you say roll, and it will tell you the red die was this, the white die was that. I don't know. I guess that's kind of cool in my world. What else? Whatever. You get the point. And if you've got a fistful of dice you don't feel like messing with, you give it the parameters and it'll adjust accordingly. So I typed, but I guess I could have spoken. When I say 1, you roll one six-sided die and give me the result. When I say 2, you roll two six-sided dice and give me the result of each die, etc., 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 up to like 6. And then you could just type 1 and it'll give you the result of one six-sided die roll. Or if you have the audio enabled, you could say 1 and you'll hear it tell you the result of one six-sided die roll. Again, this is very, very basic, trivial stuff to be applied to this vast black hole of potential. But anyway, that's what I've been messing with, so I thought I'd share that with you guys. A couple other things I tried to do with it. I did have it try and write a basic rule book for a Napoleonic game, and it comes up, I don't know how or what it's getting its information from, because I didn't give it what you would consider a necessary amount of information beforehand, a priori, to work with. And it comes up, I guess it pulls from wherever it's pulling and gets just enough to throw together a very basic outline of what a Napoleonic rule set would look like. It doesn't go into detail, obviously, but had fun messing with that a little bit and telling it to be more specific. But it only gets ever so specific, you know. It just gives that basic outline. A couple of other things I noticed with this is that it's there are times when its suggestions can become circular, that is to say repetitive, redundant. And I was trying to see what it could come up with based on this. So I told it to come up with a way of determining a random number without using dice, without using cards, without pulling shits from a cup. And the first obvious answer it gave was there's online random number generators you can use on a PC. And I'm like, okay, what else? And then it went into a spinner. You can, the old spinner thing. And I said, no, what else? And then it started to repeat itself. I think it said something about cards. And I said, no. I said, no cards. And it apologized. It said, sorry. And it tried again. And it didn't specifically do the chit thing, but it did the chit thing. So it said take 6 pieces of white paper, write a number on each one, put them in a cup. But that's the chit thing, though. So I said, what else? And it did the card thing. So again, it's cycling through and repeating some of these answers, even if it's in a different description. It's still essentially repeating answers, which was interesting. It makes me wonder as far as its limitations within a certain framework. Anyway, I pushed it thinking if this was a person, they'd smack me in the face, but I pushed it far enough and was insistent enough that finally it came up with this really odd answer, and it said, take a pendulum and hang it from your fingers and swing it back and forth and have a grid with numbers that you hold it over, and whenever it comes to a stop, that is the number, etc. And I thought, well, it's original. It's not practical, but I guess it's clever in some respect. And I told it, I said, hey, that's interesting, but that's a bit time consuming. I forget what it responded with, but. So there you go. I mean, what is the point of this whole video? What is the point of ChatGPT? The point is, I think, I don't know, mess with it. You learn as you go. And it can foster and spark ideas, right? So it may not be giving you 100% of what you need or want, but it can definitely give you enough stuff to flesh out an idea if you have one, and now that I think of it, one of the other things I asked it was come up with an original app to develop that hasn't been developed, and it came up with something like Time Swap or something called Time Swap, and it's kind of a bartering system that does away with money, and it's based on skills and abilities that can be traded, right? So let's say you know how to play the piano, and you need some plumbing work done. So you can trade, right? What just so happens, you use this app, and just like any app, a number of people using it, they put their feelers out for what they can do, what they're looking for, and lo and behold, it connects you to a plumber that is looking to take piano, right? So you give him an hour's time on the piano, and he gives you an hour's time in the bathroom, right? Well, I mean, in a perfect world, that might work, but then you've got some people that might take 6 hours to fix a simple leak so they can get 6 hours worth of piano lessons, and anybody that is dumb as a box of rocks and doesn't know anything about plumbing would say, oh, well, I owe him 6 hours, when the actual job probably should have only taken 20 minutes, right? So anyway, I don't mean to be a negative Nancy, but that was an interesting idea. And it gave me a couple other ideas for apps that I can't recall off of the top of my head. But this is just another example of what you can do with this. Trying to go back here. Yeah, Time Swap is one. Mind Map. I said invent a new app. How about an app called Mind Map Pro? Designed for collaborative brainstorming and idea generation. Users can create dynamic mind maps, invite others to contribute, and foster creativity in a visually engaging platform. Okay, so that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about when it speaks in generalities, right? Now you can ask it after that to be more specific, and it will, but only to an extent. And again, you're left with simply just even more generalities. So I said, okay, what about something else? And then it says the Time Swap app. It connects people looking to exchange skills or services based on their expertise and availability, fostering a community where users can trade services like language tutoring, home repairs, or professional advice. It's mentioned this before because I've asked this question a week or two ago, and it phrased it a little differently, but it has essentially offered up this suggestion before. Now watch, me saying this, somebody's going to make $1 million out there off of that app idea, right? Probably not. Original idea to make money. It says, consider an app called Skill Market. It's a platform where users can monetize their unique skills by offering personalized tutorials, consultations, or services. Blah, blah, blah. What else? It says, how about an app called Memory Mingle? It's a unique platform where users can create and share interactive digital memory experiences. People can upload photos, videos, and anecdotes related to specific events, and others can virtually explore these memories. The app could offer premium features like virtual reality enhancements or collaborative memory creation, generating revenue through subscriptions or one-time purchases. Sounds potentially interesting. How the hell would it work? I don't know. And then another one called Remote Skill Hub. Another thing that this ChatGPT can do, and it's beyond my area of expertise or even basic knowledge, is it will do code, I've been told. And don't ask me to explain even what the hell code is. Some computer language, right, for writing programs, code. Apparently it's fairly tedious to do. Now, I've read that it won't always be 100% correct, but it will write code. So there's that as well. And that's just, again, another example of what you can do with it. Maybe you guys, say, listeners, watchers, maybe you guys have used this for something. I would be interested to know below what you've used it for, what ideas you have. Give it a shot. If you haven't, let me know what you try, what you ask, what you come up with. The sky is the limit, potentially. As much as I like to think that I think outside the box, my area of focus and interest is fairly narrow. So maybe you guys would be able to think of something that I hadn't considered. That's pretty much it. So we have this great technology that we can use to roll dice, I guess. Now, there's definitely more potential there. But that's really all I have to say. I guess this board behind me, I'm still running through the actual bona fide black powder rules. I'm almost at the end of turn 2. I have cut the ranges and distances in half. I had to. Even with this table as big as it is, roughly the size of a king-size mattress. So think of it that way. What I have behind me, it's about 4 inches shy, width-wise, of a king-size mattress. As big as it is, it still could not accommodate adequately the suggested scale for actual black powder. So I cut them in half, and it's working pretty cool. It's working out all right. Again, using the rules as they're meant to be used, and it's only, as I mentioned, towards the end of turn 2, so quite a bit of maneuvering, more so than shooting or hand-to-hand, but I feel like it's perhaps not as bloody as I would like it to be. That is to say, the combat results are they tend to drag on a bit, so I don't know. Thus, hence the black powder rules. I know a number of people have complaints about them, or a number of people have praise to heap on the black powder rules. I come back to them every now and again just to remind myself that I like them or I don't like them, or what is it exactly that I do like about them, and then I leave them again. So the next thing that I'm tentatively considering, and yes, I'm already on to the next thing. I'm only on turn 2 of a 12-turn peninsular battle. But a couple of things. Actually, the old Napoleon game from Columbia Games used to be Avalon Hill as well. I would still like to, and I sold that copy that I had for the scooter fund, so I may have to get another one. But I would like to use that and incorporate it into a campaign system. Other people have considered this and talked about it, but use the game itself to run the overview, strategic overview, and then zero in on the table over here when you meet on the field. And that game can be had for free now that I think of it. If you go to Board Game Geek, you can print off a map. There's 2 different versions. I made blocks back in the day and stickered them before I ended up buying the thing after all, so I may just do that again. The other thing, though, is this old, and this is the second time I've printed this out because the last attempt went by the wayside. But this is this Napoleon's Art of War from Strategy and Tactics magazine, 1979, so you know what you're in for here. It's your combat results table, etc. Now, all this stuff can be amended to your little heart's desire, but Eylau being one of my favorite battles, and for God's sakes, I'm probably saying it wrong. I should look it up. Maybe I should ask a ChatGPT how to pronounce Eylau. Either way, the thing I like about this is, and where did I get this, first of all? Well, I can't tell you because there's a site online, and if you search long and hard enough, you'll find it. But it has things that can be had, things that can be downloaded. Is that right? Is it moral? Is it ethical? Is it legal? I don't know. I'm not making money off of it. I'm not selling it. And if the damn thing's out of print, the company isn't making money off of it either. So I don't think anybody's going to be hurt that I've printed off a black and white copy of Strategy and Tactics 1979 game insert Napoleon's Art of War Eylau Dresden. That said, as mentioned, it does come with a map, right? As you would expect, and your counters. And the back of these counters, which are actually another page because this is all PDF files, tells you where to set the thing up. So I'm considering this because the table is now big enough I can fit this insert game onto this table. And the problem typically with transposing board war games, which I tend to like to do, to the table is there's one thing I'll admit that board games can do and do well that this table cannot, and that is stacking. It's the one thing, in my opinion, that board war games can do. If you're going to do hex to hex here and there, if you can't stack, that is to say, if you're required to stack, you can't do it here. What are you going to literally stack miniatures on top of each other? You can't do it. I guess there's a way that you could do it with crib notes or something in a hex, but that's just a hassle, and I'm getting a headache even thinking about it. But this game doesn't allow stacking, and there are a number of games out there like that, and I note them, and I appreciate them simply for that reason, because potentially they can be transferred from paper to table. And so that's what I'm looking at, and the rules here are outdated and simple, but again, you can adjust them to as much as you like or as little as you like. But there's some cool flavor rules in here, especially with the a weather die roll I'm looking at. These are optional, but a weather die roll of 5 changes a retreat result into an elimination result. A weather die roll of 6 changes the player affected by the result. So, for example, an attacker retreat becomes a defender retreat. This is all fairly entertaining and interesting to me. A weather die roll of 1 through 4 leaves the result unmodified. There is no weather die roll after an enemy eliminated result. So there's little things like that in here, and again, it's one of my favorite battles. So we may see this on that. We'll see. I'm feeling pretty confident that I can do this and enjoy it, but still currently enjoying this over here. And again, if it wasn't such a drag or hassle to move the camera and show you all this stuff, we did, for the most part, set up with all the British on one side and a lot of the French on the other side of the table, they're kind of veering up that way, up the table. And it's interesting to see the progression and migration of troops as things go along, because again, if you remember in Black Powder, your movement rates, or your moving at all, is not guaranteed, and it varies based on command die rolls. So, and I like that aspect, especially as a solo player. It takes out a lot of the God predictability stuff. So I think that's it. I want to keep this short, and I may wind up off topic and just droning on and on. So I'm going to cut you guys loose. Again, let me know what you think about the Chat GPT thing. Have any of you guys messed with it? What have you messed with it? What have you used it for? Etc. And yeah, so all right. I hope everybody's doing well. We'll talk soon.